The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
But we know who we trust, just when I say that we gon' be alright.
WVTC Radio. Sit back and relax. Tune in. With Elder Miller, where we bring light to darkness. Come on in and enjoy this show. We got a nice one for you today.
All right. Hey, everybody. You have not gotten to the wrong show. This is the Good News with Elder Miller. However, I am not Elder Miller, and nor is the gentleman sitting beside me. But I want to talk about that in just a little bit. But again, welcome. So glad that you're able to join us here. As you know, for the last several weeks, we've been out of the studio, and we've been here in-house, literally, doing the show as we prepare for the renovations that are taking place at the studio. So we can't wait for you to see that. So in the meantime, in between time, we've been the current owner and founder of WVTC Radio has lent us his home to continue to conduct our broadcast. So we're really grateful and thankful for that. As you have already probably guessed, Elder Miller is not here with us tonight. He has some pressing family stuff that he's got to tend to. So as co-host, I'm holding everything down for tonight. Now, what's crazy is I'm talking to you guys. There's a slight delay. So I have to get used to this slight delay, but that's fine. But again, I want to start off with a scripture as Elder Miller does. I know he always has a particular one, but tonight I got one in particular, and it's coming out of Philippians 4:4. And it simply says, and this is from the New Living Translation. It says, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Then, somebody say then. There you go. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Amen. Okay, I don't know if that's good news, okay?
That's good news. Let's say don't worry.
Don't worry about what? Anything. Okay. So I want to share that with you tonight. That is our scripture for the evening. This gentleman that is sitting beside me, he was on our show last week virtually, and now this week he's actually in studio or at home, however you want to look at it. But I have beside me the incredible, the incomparable Mr. Keith Hale. So hi, Keith. How you doing? Welcome to WVTC in person.
Hello, Trina. Dorian.
Oh, as a disclaimer, he's also my cousin. But go ahead. Tell the people a little about who you are and what you do.
Wow, thank you. First of all, I want to say, Dorian, it's a pleasure to be here with you on tonight. Mm-hmm. It's a pleasure just to be able to, be present here on this show. It's an honor that you all asked me, that Pastor G had me come on. And I'm just honored.
Well, we're honored to have you. So, you are a what do they call it? Triple threat, a quadruple threat in terms of your talents. You sing, you dance, you act, you host, you pretty much do anything in terms of entertainment wise, and you're extremely talented. And I'm not just saying that because you're family. I've seen you do the work, and you're incredibly, like I said, gifted in that way. So share with the people a little bit about, how you develop the passion for what it is that you do.
Well, I mean, you said all those wonderful, nice things. I'm like, wow.
Who that?
I'm like, who is she talking about? But I'm honored, and definitely. I give all the praise for whatever gifts he's given, whatever he's done to God. Particularly, you had shared you just asked, how did it all start off? Basically,
Yeah. How did you develop your passion for it?
when I was a little kid.
Okay. Okay.
I do remember just being when I was little, imitating different people and just doing those type of things. And I guess somebody probably could have guessed that this was something that was going to lead into. But where it really started, when it is about, I'd probably say, doing school plays and high school, different things like that. But then I wanted to take it up to another level.
Okay.
And I became a part of a casting company. And I talk about this part all the time because it's so key to me. In about 2014. And in about 2014, I got a part of the cast company. And to be honest, I said, my acting career is on its way.
Okay.
Watch out.
Okay.
So I started auditioning. They were like, no. Then I auditioned again. They're like, no.
No.
Then I auditioned. They said, what?
No.
But thank
But
God.
there's a lesson in that, and I think I want to just highlight the fact I just saw that Pastor G is in the building. He just said, thanks for us holding it down. We see you out there. Thank you, my brother. But the lesson, the word I want to speak on just for a moment is the fact that, in the business of show, there's a certain amount of thick skin that you have to develop if you're really serious about doing this work. So can you talk about how you developed that thick skin? Obviously, you developed it on the job training because you had to go through, a certain amount of no's, right? So how talk about that process.
I think most likely it definitely has to be something that is in you already. I think you have to say, you know what, this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
This is something I'm going to do, and then proceed forward with that. You always have to have that protagonistic, or let's say positive approach to it.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, no matter what, just like the scripture says, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's going to work out, and you have that type of spirit, it's going to work out.
Well, there's a certain amount, and I want to say a shout out to Cheryl. Just saw you saying good evening to us, Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, thank you for joining us. We've seen you before on the show and your questions. So if you have any questions, and I encourage anyone that is listening, if you have any particular questions for this incredible talent, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll try our best to answer your questions as they come along. But I just want to pop back to what you're saying about how you developing this thick skin, and that it has to be in you. That I think there has to be a certain amount of inner confidence. Like, even though y'all don't see it yet,
Right.
I'm the stuff. I'm
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm it. Y'all just don't know it yet.
There you go.
So how do you keep that inner voice going on when there are points in everyone's career when all you're getting are no's?
I just keep hearing when you say, even though you hear those no's, I just keep hearing in my spirit, hey, I'm starting right here, but I know that there's an end. There's an expected end.
Yeah.
And I can't express that. You have to stay positive. And I think particularly, what was your specific question?
About how do you keep that inner being saying, hey, I know I'm it. Y'all haven't recognized it yet, even though y'all keep telling me no.
I got it. So it's like, even like from people like you, to be honest, you have been a big support to me all my life. And she talks a lot about what I do. I mean, this is an awesome talent in itself. Dorian is an awesome talent. I mean, she's not here by coincidence before you all week after week. It's been a progression of time. It's been a progression of energy, and she's poured it out in a lot of ways. It's still dealing with, family, work, and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's just what we have to do, no matter what. My wife, my wonderful wife, Felicia.
You got to get that Barry voice in there. Hey, babe.
But you have to pull off of that energy, as well as, again, nothing else could be said than, hey, I know it can happen.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going to make it happen.
Well, I would be remiss. Today is January 16th, which is in honor of MLK Day, Martin Luther King. And one of the things that he talked about in one of his most famous speeches is "I have a dream." And and though he would be, I think, 94 today if he was still alive, um, and we can talk about how much of that dream has been achieved. But for him to speak the words that he spoke, in Washington Plaza, to speak about what he knew for him, probably knew for himself that he would not get to see, and still, have the dream and spoke about the way that he did. I think there's a tenacity. There's a connection, I believe, in having that type of tenacity that I think entertainers have. Obviously, it's a whole different energy and vibe because this is for entertainment purposes. But I still think there's a commonality. There's still a similar vibration when you have to have that. There's a certain, like I said, tenacity that says, I'm going to live this out. Even if it's beyond me, I'm going to live out this dream. Oh, look in the building. Mr. Miller has joined us. Can you hear us okay, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we
Can
do
you hear me?
hear you. So,
Oh,
this
well,
is
please,
this is the hardest working brother on this side of heaven. He's handling his business, dealing with his family. He's like, but I'm gonna jump in on this call. So glad to have you. So glad that you
Oh, yeah,
joined us
man.
for a little bit of time. So is there anything you want to contribute to the conversation, sir?
Oh, you know what? I just want to, first of all, I want to say thank God for you all continuing to go forward with this emergency that I had. We did get mom transferred. We're here actually at the rehab facility, so she likes it. It's really nice too. I like it myself. So I was able to steal away to one of the rooms and actually log on and just tell you, Keith, man, how much I appreciate you, brother. You stuck in there with us. You still here, and sis, you always hold it down. You know I got mad love for both of you all. Y'all are actually family. So so,
Yes, yes.
but I'm glad that you guys are on, and man, I'm looking forward to the interview. I might dip out here shortly, but I want to get on and just tell you all thank you for holding it down. And man, I want to thank Tracy Prentice also. Last week was our host. I'm sorry, our guest. So we thank God for her and State Farm. So make sure, Nash, if you don't mind, mention her as well,
Well, I
because we
believe
definitely want to help some people.
she's here virtually, so we're going to bring her on in just a little bit if she's here virtually. So absolutely, thank you
Oh,
for
okay.
that.
Pastor G, I just
All
want
right. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm going to listen. I'm sucking up the interview. I'm out.
All right, all right. Did you want to? Was this?
I did. I wanted
Okay.
to tell, but I can still say it.
Yeah, because he's watching.
He's watching.
Yes, he is.
I wanted to share with you, Pastor G. I thank you so much. You are one of my biggest supporters. I was able to call on you weeks ago when I was auditioning, and right on the spot, he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Now
Yeah.
we were auditioning for a little longer. He was like, "Okay, now," but he still gave his time and his energy. But I'm thinking about even before that. When I play, I do a lot of different characters, and he always laughed, and he always made me feel like I was doing the most, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because one of the things that I appreciate about your talent is that I think a lot of people know you for the comedic parts that you do. We got Pastor Aloysius. You do a Jerome.
I play Grandma Moses too. Yes, praise the Lord. Yeah.
So you have many characters that would be considered comedic, right? And it's hilarious. You guys, if you ever get to see him, he's done a lot of stage plays here throughout Chicago. A couple of my productions he's been in. He has an incredible comedic understanding and a timing, because comedy is about timing, right? And so you have great timing, but not every. Well, I put it like this: not every drama person can do comedy. I find that a lot of comedy people can do drama. So do you want to speak to that in terms of you expanding your repertoire to do more drama? Because it seems like the comedy comes really easily for you, and people that see you do work may gravitate towards that, but you are kind of multi-talented in that you can do both. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Wow, thank you. You make me feel real good.
But it's true though. I mean, I'm I'm not just gassing you. It's real truth. I've seen it in action, and you know, I forget that we're family. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, he's awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, I think the one thing that helps me do, let's start with the comedy aspect, playing the characters, is when I'm able to, it's like, if you say, Keith, be you on camera, then I'm going to be like, to be or not to be. That is the question. They're like, that's, no. But if you ask me to play a character, somehow I'm able to utilize,
just lock in.
I'm able to lock in on that particular character. If, let's say it's comedy, a comedy character, I'm able to lock in on that particular character very quickly, like Mike Tyson. Hi, I'm Mike Tyson. I just want to tell everybody thank you, and don't be ludicrous. You know, so then I can come out of that and still be myself. But then let's talk about the serious person. I am a serious person, but I'm able to say, okay, what is the character? What is the character? And once I find out it's the character, I mean, maybe an abusive husband, or maybe, you know, who knows? Yeah. But I'm locked in on who that person is, and I'm able to expand from there.
So if I'm hearing you right, so obviously for you, it's the character. Is everything begins and ends with that character?
To me, yes.
And so once you're able to lock in, okay, you know, who is this person at a core, and you can lock in on that. That's how you kind of can transition between the two.
Yeah, you know, taking notes from different people, like, I mean, Kevin Hart. I mean, I don't know if it's okay to say true story. I just saw this. That's one of my favorite movies, probably within the last 3 years. We know him as a comedian.
Oh, that movie when he ended up taking that guy out.
Yes.
You know what? Kudos to you, Kevin Hart, because you really showed some acting chops on that. I was impressed. I was impressed with that role.
I was totally impressed. It took me way off guard. Not just the acting, but the scenes, the different things that happened. I was surprised by the events that happened. But he talks about a lot. Once you have to lock in on the character. You lock in on the character, and I want to say, like, Eddie Murphy will be the character, and they say, hey, dude, we're not even on camera, and he's still the character.
Right.
But, I mean, as far as finding out what would they do, what would they wear, how would they behave, all those things.
All the mannerisms, the walk, the gait of their walk, the cadence of their speech.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, all of that. Before I forget, and I'm going to ask my engineer, now, is Tracy in the virtual room? She is here. So I tell you what we're going to do. Tracy, if you can hear us, we're going to bring you in at the 7:30, after our 7:30 break. We want you to come and join us. So it's about 7:20. So if you can hang out, and in the chat, if you can let us know if that's okay, we'll bring you in after the break. But thank you for being here. And I just wanted to, acknowledge that. And again, I want to encourage, if there's anyone that's in the chat, that's watching us on Facebook Live, and you have a question, please feel free to ask your questions. This is the time. If you are an aspiring actor or singer and you have some questions for our guests, please utilize this time. This person who's in the game, who's doing it, has representation. Okay, so and we can talk about that as well. So I want to encourage you, if you have some questions, or even if you see it in the replay, he'll be able to give some of his social media handles, and maybe there's a question you could ask afterwards as well. So I just want to put that out there as we continue this conversation. So I think that's really key. And again, I've been able to see your growth in that, in terms of how you can transition comedically and how you can do the drama. And, again, shout outs to Kevin Hart. I thought he did a fantastic job in that movie. I too was kind of like, because he hit a different level in that movie, because again, we're so used to the comedic side. We're so used to him, just kind of being silly and things like that. And that's fine. That's what's paid the bills. That's what has afforded him the lifestyle that he has. And we've bought into that. But it was really good to see him do another level. And some could be said for when he did the role Fatherhood, I think is what it was called.
I didn't get a chance to see that one, but I did say I was going to go back and see that.
Yeah, so obviously Fatherhood is a little bit more lighthearted compared to True Story. And it made me, when I tell you this, when I watched True Story, I was like, okay, it's called True Story.
Is this true?
Kevin, there's something you need to tell us, bro?
Hey, bro.
Hello.
So I get what you're doing. This is what I said. I get what you're doing. You telling a story like it's not true. So if it ever came back down to it, we wouldn't think it actually happened. You said, no, that was just.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But very interesting plot.
Yeah.
I must say again, and I've said this, commented on this before. I just love black people because I'm looking at this and our melanin is popping. And I say it every week, but every time I look at the screen, I'm like, oh, this is nice. But anyway, let me stay focused.
M.I.P. M.I.P.
Melanin is popping.
There
Okay.
you go.
MIP. It's a T-shirt. Get ready. Get ready.
Right.
So let's get serious for just a little bit. But I noticed what you did as we were talking. You're just kind of bouncing through impersonations, characters that you created. You did a Mike Tyson just now. Tell us a little bit about how you're able to do and create the characters that you do, as well as the impersonations that you do.
You know what? While you were asking this question, I was getting scared. Like, what is she finna ask? Because this is so fun because some of the things I don't even think about.
Okay, they just
kind of pop
Yeah.
in.
Mhm.
And so when you was like, what is she gonna ask me? Because I have to think about what I'm gonna say. I don't know. It's just things that in my head I know that I could rock it.
Okay.
I know that I can land it. And it's just the same thing with a job that you say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And then you say, I know I can do it. It's intuitive.
So is it like you just did Mike Tyson, right?
Right.
Is that something you just always had in you? Or did you have to study? Like some people have to really watch the character to get it. Or is it just you watching him a little bit and it just was
I think that's probably
quick like that?
So everybody can say, hey, this guy, he's definitely a character, if you will.
Yeah.
And for me, I just automatically, maybe I tried it once and I was like, you know what, I got that.
You got that.
But then there's some other characters to me that are just naturally funny. You see them on the street all the time.
Right.
And you kind of, it's like it just all comes together.
Well, you remind me in that way of a Jay Farrow.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Well,
And, I was watching an interview of him and they just kept throwing different characters at him. And he was just doing it, right? And he was going from Denzel to Eddie Murphy to Jay-Z to Kevin Hart to Chris Rock. I mean, he was just, and he was just flowing through. And though I know that you per se aren't doing those types of characters, but the characters that you create, and again, you guys, if you ever have an opportunity to see this gentleman in a stage play or the next movie that he's going to be in, come on, I'm speaking it right now. And he has an opportunity to play these character roles, I should say. You really do become that character. And it's so we get entwined into the character, and you've created some lasting moments, and that's a great thing, whether they're at an actual stage play or a movie set or whatever, or a church event. You approach it the same way. You're going to still give 1,000%, and I think that that's the mark of a good entertainer. That no matter how big the audience or how whatever the venue, you're still going to bring all of you to the role. So I really appreciate that about you and your work ethic.
Dorian, I mean, I'm getting, I guess, a little embarrassed, and at the same time, feeling like utterly humble that you would have such kind words. And I just can't say anything but thank you, God, for this opportunity.
It's all
for
true.
the opportunity to move forward. And just praying that God will continue to allow roles to come and that I can grasp onto.
Oh, and you do that so effortlessly, and I think you'll continue to do so. We are expecting more and more great things from you. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about the how you go on auditions now and what that looks like for you, and talk about that for those that are aspiring to say, well, how do I break into this? How do I start? How do I start? So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I share, and I shared last time, and to me it's so key. A lot of times I hear a lot of people say, well, how much money do I need to start in this field of trying to get auditions and going to casting calls? The reality, in my experience, you don't have to spend a lot of money. I think now people charge you maybe about $50 to start out. But if you get a company that's saying, okay, hey, can you give us $100 a month or $100 a week or $3,500 up front? That's, to me, that's not credible, if you will. It's not something that I would recommend.
Now, why would you say it's not credible? These people, and again, I think I know the answer, but for those that are listening, why would you say or discourage someone from dropping that type of money if they're trying to break into the show business?
Because, okay, let's say you find you want to try to find a casting company who likes your talent
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily your money. Of course, they're trying to get money,
Right.
but you want them to get the money when you work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to come to them with money and then say, okay, now get me money. Ultimately, then
their job is to find you jobs.
Their job is to find you jobs.
Now, do you have to invest in headshots?
Now, that may be the biggest investment you have to make. I wouldn't particularly go into, now you do want to make sure that those headshots are professional. You don't want to go in with your selfie,
Yeah.
but you want to make sure those headshots are professional. But also above that, let's say you go somewhere and they say, okay, to do this, that, and that's going to be $10,000. Now let's kind of.
Can I get the smaller package?
Can I get the smaller?
Can I
package?
get the starter actor package?
There you go. Because ultimately, you're spending all that money, and really, the photographer is going to let the photographer. As a matter of fact, that's a good key too. Let the photographer pick the pictures. You're obviously going to say, "Hey, I like these pictures," but they're going to say, yeah, but people aren't looking at those pictures. You want to go with the pictures that the photographer who has experience in casting in different venues such as that.
Oh, that's really key.
Mm-hmm.
Picking the right photographer that is familiar with what it is that casting agents are looking for.
Right.
That's really key. We're going to continue this conversation. We are at the 7:30 mark. So we're going to take a 2-minute break. Hopefully you can either listen to one of the commercials or some music as we prepare to bring Tracy on into the conversation. So we'll be right back. Stay with us, y'all. Be back in 2 minutes. Peace.
The fall and winter fashion seasons are upon us. Time Underground Furs have every coat you need to be unique and stand out in the crowd. From furs, minks, leather, suede, vests with the fur, blue jean jackets with fur, cashmere, and wool coats, with over 350 coats to choose from. Rarely will you see two of the same coat. Quality coats and excellent customer service is first and foremost. Our entire inventory is wholesale priced. You never pay full price. Every coat is 25% or more less than any other store that sells fur coats. Why pay retail when you can buy the same coat for wholesale and save hundreds of dollars? Time Underground Furs also sells to other stores at wholesale prices. We also have very nice pre-owned, slightly worn furs. We lease our coats for all types of events and have 30-day layaway only. The mission is to take the coats out of our store and put them in your closet or store. Wearing a mink or unique coat transforms you to the best version of yourself, and everyone wants a fur coat. Time Underground Furs is here to make that happen. We do appointments only. Time Underground Furs, located in River Oaks Mall in Calumet City, 708-252-1434. That's 708-252-1434. Or check out our website at www.tymeundergroundfurs.com. It's time to purchase a fur from Time Underground Furs.
Imagine yourself 20 pounds lighter in 8 weeks. Time Fitness program is designed to lose weight and tone your body at the same time. After each workout, you'll enjoy a 15-minute sauna to burn more calories, reverse the aging process, boost your metabolism, and enhance detoxification. Get a free protein smoothie after each session and a free Time Fitness shirt. Stop procrastinating. TimeFitness.com 773-458-5084.
All right. Hey, everybody. We are back. Thank you for staying with us after that break. I am so excited to continue this conversation. And you guys know every week we have what we call a segment called Say It Ain't So. We have some topics we want to talk about. But before we do that, I want to bring in our virtual guest, which she was here with us last week in studio. And tonight she's here with us virtually. Tracy, are you there with us tonight? Can you hear us, Tracy? We're gonna let our engineer bring her on in. Sometimes there's a slight delay, but we're here and we're gonna. Hey Tracy, can you hear us? Well, meanwhile, the melanin is still popping. So we want to talk about as we're getting that prepared. Again, we were talking about the connections with the tenacity. Well, we're talking about a lot of stuff. The tenacity of MLK, Martin Luther King.
Can I speak something?
Oh,
I
sure.
wanted to say something.
Sure.
MLK is one of my, if not one of my most important icons for me in my life. I look up to him. We had went to Atlanta to see his memorial site.
Oh, awesome!
We sat in where they had the movie theater where you could see about his life, and it was very
just uplifting.
It was very uplifting, but it had a lot of information, and I found myself, tears coming down my eyes.
Yeah.
And we're talking about dreams.
Yeah.
This particular person, through adversity, like you said, not the same, but kind of like in the same matter of what we're talking about. He had a dream, even though he couldn't see it, even though he had all these different things coming at him.
Sure.
Literally. He still continued. And his was bigger. And sometimes people say, well, why are we celebrating him? People might think that, but look at his legacy. It's not a mistake.
Yep.
He drove that passion.
Yeah.
And he drove it hard, even though he couldn't see it.
Even though he couldn't see it. And I think that that's the phenomenal thing and the important thing, one of the takeaways, because I hold Martin Luther King in very high regard and the impact that he's had in my life and continues to have. That's just a life well lived, that way beyond his years, for decades and generations to come, we are still saying his name. We are still wanting to fulfill the dream that he spoke about back in Washington Memorial. So we just want to say a special just thank you to the King family. Thank you to King as a man and just what he represented. I just want to take that moment and say that. And then, again, as we get ready to prepare for February, which is right around the corner, as we talk about Black History Month, which again, if y'all know me, I say it's not just Black history, it is American history. And so we will be preparing for that as well. We have some special engagements regarding that's coming up. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going to ask our engineer again, is Tracy ready to be brought in now, hopefully? Okay, so Tracy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, though.
Yes.
Are we able to bring her on screen? No, not at this time. Okay. So, Tracy, we're going to please jump in. Get in where you fit in, girl. And then we'll continue the conversation. And so for those of you that may not be able to see her, Tracy Prentice was on our show last week, like I said, in person. Tonight she's here virtually. And she is a premier State Farm aficionado. So if there's anything dealing with insurance and you need some help, be it life or a car or home, your business insurance, she is the person you need to talk to. So we're really glad that you're here on the show with us here tonight, Tracy. How you doing?
Good. Definitely enjoying the holiday. Just grateful for the weekend and rest. So I'm doing pretty good and learning more about Dorian and acting. So definitely enjoying myself.
Well, so glad that you're here tonight. Did you have something you want to say?
I just want to say hello, Tracy. How you doing?
Good evening, and God bless.
Well, listen, as we usually do each week, we have a Say It Ain't So section, and we kind of pull things from the headlines and we talk about them. And obviously we want to hear everybody's voice from the various walks of life that they're coming from and their perspective. So to begin the say it ain't so section, I want to talk about these shenanigans that's happening with our current administration and our former administration. So formally, we know that Mar-a-Lago was raided because of the documents that they were having on the premises, and then most recently, our current administration, our President Biden, has turned in some we've come to find out that there's some documents that he still had in possession, classified documents that he was not supposed to have. And I say it ain't so. And so
I say I smell something fishy. That's the first thought.
So what do you mean? What's fishy? That the fact that this is now happening to Joe Biden, or what? What do you
mean that is happening to Joe Biden, but I guess my first thought is, who set this up? Who set this up?
No, I think it's clear to say, or we should state this, that back in 2017, some documents were found. I'm not exactly sure, but when the attorneys found them, they reported themselves to the archive, to the National Archive, and said, hey, I don't know how this happened. We have these documents. That was in 2017. Most recently, I think this was now, October of 22, somewhere in there, in that time frame, October, November, some more documents came up. And to the Biden administration, thus far, it has shown that they've been more than open to the investigation in terms of making sure that the documents got returned. There's not been any type of resistance. They've been very accountable and willing to work with them in trying to get to the bottom of this, as opposed to the prior administration, not so much. Right? So my question between the both of you is, do you think that because of this messiness with Biden, that somehow that's going to give cover for Trump so that he will not face charges? Because if you charge him, they'll say, well, you got to charge Biden. What do you get? Tracy, I'm going to let you answer that first.
So my wheels are just churning on that as I'm kind of contemplating, what is equal and what is equitable, and what we should kind of go after. And I'm going to probably have to agree with you that, because Trump has been so much more egregious and, been so raw and in our face. And again, with the Capitol storming and stuff like that, I think they would have to do both. And both the lefts and the rights would be wanting justice for both. So I think they would probably have to bring charges on both.
Well, I'm going to hold my thoughts. What do you think, Mr. Hale?
Well,
thank you for that, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Just like you shared, I hate to use the word, but it kind of got us in a small trick bag, if you will. Mm-hmm. Whereas we won't be able to really go where we wanted to go with the charges, because if you do charge one, then they're going to really be like, okay, I know you're not going to trip, because he need to be charged as well. Mm-hmm. So at this juncture, we might be at a stalemate on that issue.
So let me tell you how I feel.
Okay.
I don't give up. This is a church show. I just feel this. I feel that there are tiers or levels. Like when you is this a felony or is this a misdemeanor? I think more than likely if you charge Biden, it should be a misdemeanor. I think Trump committed felony crimes. It was just this short, or maybe I believe crossed the line of treason. His actions led to the Capitol building being besieged upon. It led to people believing that they have actively said, I'm here because Trump told me to come here. I'm here because the election was stolen. I'm here because they stole those documents or lied on him, and it's a fake. He should not have been voted out. He's still president. And because of those big lies, because of the ways that he has shaped the ways that the Department of Justice has come after him and villainized the FBI and made them seem like somehow they were in dereliction of their duty when the opposite is true. I just pray that you stay the course, Department of Justice, and you file those felony charges against Mr. Trump. And then if you have to file charges against Biden and a misdemeanor or whatever, then do that. But he needs to be brought to justice.
Right. Well, now as it relates to
that's all I say about that.
As it relates to that particular subject, I see if we're talking about the January 6th, then he needs to be charged. But as a relation to the documents, I think there's no, they're at the stalemate.
They're at the stalemate. But I feel like if you toss out the documents, doesn't that weaken the case for January 6th, or does it not?
In my opinion, no.
In your opinion, what do you think, Tracy? Does it weaken the case for January 6th and how he's looked upon?
It definitely does.
You say it definitely does?
Yes, it definitely does.
Talk about why you think it does.
Well, again, we're looking at the totality of, everything that has happened in general. So I just believe that, this is just one thing that doesn't look as favorable as people are, kind of going back and doing the checklist of things that, were supposed to be done. And I don't think the ratings are as high. And we thought that there would be such a great turn of events. I don't think that we've seen a lot of action thus far.
Well, I guess again, time will tell. I just believe that if something is not brought to justice, what will stop? The only reason that it didn't actually happen is that the players involved were not good at execution of the plans. If something is not said to say this is not how you conduct government, then who's to say that this attempted coup would not happen again? And so that's what I'm concerned about. That when people don't like the results, they'll just say, well, we'll just have a coup and we'll just overthrow and we will not have a peaceful transition of power. And so to me, we're in real jeopardy if we don't hold people accountable. But in the comments, Pastor G said he didn't think anyone would be charged ultimately. I pray that is not the case. I pray that they see it through, and that that fair heads will ultimately reign in terms of what needs to happen. But again, because of the way that our Senate is and the House and our Congress, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know I don't know, but there's just a lot going on. But so that's the first part of saying it ain't so. I want to transition a little bit for these last 15 minutes because Bishop Lamar Whitehead is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, we've talked about him. Cheryl says, before I transition, she says, what does treason really mean? Why doesn't it apply in January 6th? Cheryl, I'm with you. I do believe it applies for January 6th. However, this messiness now would bring in Biden and his documents and how it just kind of complicates or muddies the water. And so that's what we're talking about. Treason, which I believe that the Trump administration was part of, was the fact that they said, hey, look, we don't care what the results are. We're not giving up this office, and we're going to take it by force by using the American people as pawns in this situation to overtake the Capitol, by attempting to, contact and implement various polling judges to overturn the results. We already have the famous phone call back in Atlanta, said, I'm just looking for 11,000 votes for him to be in his favor. I do believe that those acts in and of themselves, the citizens that were, I guess we can still call them citizens, that were at the Capitol were calling for the hanging of our vice president. Now, again, I am not a fan of Mike Pence per se, but I would never wish his harm. I would never wish his death. He was our vice president. He held office, and for you to want to cause harm, to take his life because you didn't get the result that you thought or you were lied about that really incited that crowd. I do think those are reasons for treason. Had it been successful, this would be a whole different country right now, right? And we missed it. If a couple of things had gone a couple of different ways that day, who knows what type of government we would be having right now. So, and that's just too close for comfort. So I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about what our next election is going to be like in 24. The fact that we have a former president that's running for president so that he doesn't have to go to jail. Isn't that problematic? Maybe I'm wrong. You run for office so you don't have to go to jail, or they can't touch you, but while you're running. That's rules. Things need to be changed. Rules need to be changed. So, that's okay. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop talking about it. But so I want to transition because my head gonna blow up, or literally, during the segment. Part 2 of Say It Ain't So, as I was beginning to share, and Cheryl, again, please chime in if you have anything else you want to share. Or anyone else for that matter, is Bishop Lamar Whitehead. So we've talked about him on the show before. If you guys remember, he was the pastor that during his live segment of his church service, he was robbed, or allegedly robbed. And since then, he's been in the news a few times because he had an incident with, he's been in the news with D.L. Hughley and another radio announcer. They got into it, and he does not strike me as a person that's a very kind pastor. I've never met him personally, but from what I've seen and heard, don't know if I could, some chairs, some furniture might be moving if I was in his presence, but I don't know. But most recently, I'm going to read a portion of this from CBS News in New York. They said that the Brooklyn pastor who was robbed of expensive jewelry during a live stream church service has been indicted on federal charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office says Bishop Lamar Whitehead is accused of fraud, extortion, and lying to the FBI. Does that sound familiar? Anyway, I digress. The normally flashy Whitehead was silent outside of federal court as his attorney denied all fraud allegations against him. Well, that's what an attorney is supposed to do. But anyway. The Brooklyn pastor, known for delivering sermons in designer suits and lavish jewels at Leaders of Tomorrow International Ministries, is being accused of obtaining part of his wealth illegally. He is not guilty of these charges, and we are going to vigorously defend these accusations, attorney Don Florio said. According to an unsealed indictment, Whitehead asked for money and other things of value from victims using threats and false promises. He allegedly convinced a parishioner to invest $90,000 of her retirement savings with him, but spent it on himself. He is also accused of extorting a businessman of $5,000, then convincing the victim to lend him $500,000 more and give him a stake in real estate transactions in return for favors from the city government, which Whitehead knew he could not deliver. Say it ain't so. Now, we mentioned Pastor Whitehead because in the beginning of that statement, I say Pastor Whitehead. Pastor. That's a pastor. Now, I am not here to indict him personally. I don't know the man personally. But when I think about a shepherd of the house and these types of charges are being brought before him, and again, everyone is considered innocent until proven guilty. But why is this even coming across your doorstep? Why are you even this close to something like this, that these types of accusations are being brought against you? And so I would just love to hear what you guys think. And Tracy, please feel free to jump in on some of these, on that thought. Would you go to this man's church?
So I was kind of going in and out a little bit. So ironically, my bishop just spoke about, in Romans 10, and I was looking up the scripture while we were talking about being led by the right preacher. And so I'm all about spirit and reading people and how they live, and I want to walk closely to the person who's leading me closer to God. And I just think that it's a shame and it's a black eye to what you all do, how we believe, and the lights that we have on in us when people do these sorts of things, because those that we're trying to lead closer to God often fall upon these very negative scenarios of people using, their fortune or their leadership to do bogus things and not strengthen the church or strengthen people and help people who really need it. So I just think it's really misfortunate. I hope that, they're able to investigate appropriately. And if he's done that, he definitely needs to get what he deserves.
Come on now. You answered that so PC and eloquently. I appreciate you, Tracy.
You really did. I was just listening to how you were answering.
So remember, I used to be in HR before I was in insurance. So a lot of times, like, I'm saying something real strong, but people like, wait a second, did you just really get me together? Yeah, I kind of did. But we were just looking at Romans 10 and 14. How then shall they call on him on whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher, rather? And that is not demonstrative of anybody who is using those kinds of funds to further their own good. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think so. Keith, did you have something you wanted to share?
I did.
Thank you again, Tracy, as always.
I wanted to share regarding what you just talked about with the pastor. These allegations that he has against him, the bad thing about it is that they came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, let's say, of course, the lawyer is going to do what they do and say it's not true.
Sure.
But I'm kind of reminded of a scripture that talks about, I think it's First Thessalonians 5:22.
Bring the word on in.
Where it says, abstain from all appearances of evil. So that pastor, first of all, he's not in good connection, number one, with the Lord, but he's making some bad business choices. He's making some false promises that he can't keep. And those people that he's staying in connection, it all leads to, like you were saying, Tracy, the congregation looking to the pastor to be a leader, to be above reproach.
Yeah.
And I go back to, he needs to stay away from anything that if people are accusing you, it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And you need to step back and look at what exactly is going on.
Well, what it does, again, we're saying allegedly, and we're saying because we don't want any smoke from anybody.
Right.
And people are innocent until proven guilty. But I think both of you make an excellent point that as a pastor, you're held to a certain standard that these types of things should not even come in your purview. It shouldn't even be part of the conversation because of the standard that you're held to, that you, as a leader, as a spiritual leader, and the fact that he's not been able to do that and has been in trouble over the years. This is not just something that just sprung up. These allegations have come up before. He's had other court cases, and it appears, again, allegedly, that the monies that he has received, he's not only not done the things he said, but then spent the money on himself. So to me, that is the ultimate just disrespect of your parishioners to do that if it's proven that he's found guilty. So I pray for his church. I pray for the people that attend his church, that have supported him, the people that are now disenfranchised from church, because let me tell y'all something, ain't nothing like church hurt. It's a real thing. And when you get hurt in church and you have someone that you've believed in and you've supported, and then it comes to pass that they're not quite what you thought they were to be. And again, we know the scriptures that you don't put your hope in man. And so I know y'all gonna say them things, but we still build family with churches. We still build relationships with our pastors. And then when they do something that is so just out of box, it's hurtful. It hurts. And so I really do pray for that church and the families and everyone that's involved that is best as possible, that they can come out of that situation without it, causing too much harm. But with that note, we are close. We are at the 5 minute mark. I want to give each of you an opportunity to share ways in which people can get in touch with you. If there's anything that's coming up, an event or anything that you want to share. And I want to cede the floor to you, Tracy, to share that first. And then Tracy, then Keith, I'll cede the floor to you.
Okay, thank you again for just having me tonight. I am located at 8550 South Stony Island, right off of the interstate and on the busy travel street of Stony Island, just off of 87th Street. I can be reached at 773-721-1880 or at tracypismyagent.com. Upcoming for me, I'm going to be partnering with some loan officers as renters are navigating to get out and underneath their landlords and become some homeowners and better use their resources. So I'm going to be explaining how to be armed with the right homeowners policy, and so you all can hear some of that from me, and continuing to be on stations that reflect some of my personal beliefs and partnering with people like you all in the near future. And then also doing just some more volunteerism. So you all will see a lot of me in the community on my website. So again, you're looking for some help with some insurance, I can be reached at any of those numbers
Can
and
you
or
repeat
in
that number,
person.
Tracy? Those phone numbers again?
Sure, sure. So I'm physically at 8550 South Stony Island. That's Chicago 60617. And the phone number is 773-721-1880. We'll be back in tomorrow after the holiday that we took today to commemorate the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King. And we're also there on Saturday from 9 to 1.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, you guys heard that. If you are in need of, you have some insurance needs, please, 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 we can't encourage you enough to skip on over and meet Tracy Prentice and use her contact information, be it for car insurance, home insurance, business insurance, um, homeowners insurance, and renters insurance. I do have one quick question for you as we're looking at 2023. Do you think it is wise for everyone that can, should they continue to rent or should they purchase a home, in your personal opinion?
So, in my personal opinion, it's always best to own than to rent. There are just a ton of different benefits that you can have from. Eventually, you're going to get some type of equity, meaning that what you purchased it for, that property is likely going to increase in value. That means that at some point you can pull some equity, meaning some line of credit to help you with other things. You own and you control your home and your flow. And it's a part of building what we've been coining and talking about, generational wealth. And it's just another way to pass down a legacy and to prepare your family. So I'm not just saying that just to say that I own some properties. And it's important that we regain our neighborhoods and we have the ownership, because when we do, then we can fight against other things to reestablish and regain our neighborhoods and to have the family and in the environments our grandparents had. So I'm a huge proponent of being a homeowner.
All right, thank you, Tracy. You guys heard that. So if you're on the fence about should I continue to rent in 2023 or should I really consider purchasing a home, I think the wise bet is to really consider how you can pull together resources and become a homeowner. So thank you for that, Tracy. So are you able to share some of your contact information?
Sure. If anyone's trying to reach out to me, you can reach me on Instagram, khale667. You can reach me on Facebook, just at Keith Hale, or on TikTok at Keith Hale 14. And those are some of my platforms. I'd like to share also that I do some volunteerism as well. I volunteer with an organization called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. It's an organization that puts together beds for children who don't have beds. And if you may be out there and you know of a family member who has a child who does not have a bed, I encourage you to look at my Facebook page. I'll be posting some information about the particular organization, SHP, Sleep in Heavenly Peace. No kid sleeps on the floor. I just thought I'd add that. Thank you for having me as well. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you both. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Keith. This has been another incredible hour. Thank you guys for sharing an hour with us. We hope you see this tonight and you see it in the replay. Pastor G, I know you're out there listening as well. We anticipate having us both here next week. Until then, and be safe, and we'll see you next week. Good News with Elder Miller. Take care.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ. WVTC Allsip Chicago.